Over the course of NBA history, we've seen some truly unbelievable superstar rises. 2011 Derrick Rose, 2018 James Harden, 2021 Jokic, 2023 Joel Embiid. But have we ever seen anything like 2025 SGA? Over the past few seasons, SGA has quietly been the best player in OKC. But this season, he's done something truly historic. He's won the MVP over three-time winner Jokic. And now, as at the time of recording, he's already won the Finals MVP and a championship for OKC. Something even prime Durant and Westbrook couldn't do. But it wasn't always like this. So, how did an unknown Canadian teenager go from being an unwanted 11th draft pick to being the best player in the league? This is the story of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, or as I like to call him, the superstar nobody believed in. Chapter 1. The Unlikely Hero. SGA's been called a lot of things this season. Unethical hooper, free throw merchant, the worst superstar in the league. But somehow, he's outplaying your favorite players. And do you know what else? He's doing it in a better and more efficient way. Say what you want about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but the numbers don't lie. This season, he's averaging a ridiculous 32.7 points per game, 5 rebounds, 6.4 assists, 1.7 steals, which is the most in the entire league. And an even crazier 51.9% from the field as a guard. For context, take a look at this chart. This is a record of Kobe's stats over his career in the NBA. Notice something? Kobe's best shooting percentage over his career was 46.9 in the 2001-2002 season. And this is Kobe we're talking about, one of the greatest mid-range assassins in NBA history. But when you look at his numbers compared to Shai, you notice that this guy is clearing that effortlessly. But all that's overshadowed by the narrative that he's a free throw merchant, which, when you actually look at it, was all earned from his surgical, unstoppable drives. But that's not really why I'm here, because as ridiculous as the numbers are, they're just part of a much bigger story. Let's be honest, there's no other way to say it. SGA's season is already historic, and whether you like it or not, he's done the impossible. The thing that 3 MVPs, KD, Westbrook, and Harden couldn't do. The thing even a prime-loaded OKC roster with Serge Ibaka, Kendrick Perkins, and playoff thunder behind him couldn't finish. Bring a championship back to Oklahoma City. But what makes this even more special is that he's not doing this on a superstar roster. He's doing this while carrying one of the youngest playoff contenders in NBA history. SGA has brought OKC's first title since 1979, when they were still the Seattle Supersonics.
Let the celebration begin in Seattle. It is over. The Seattle Supersonics have won the NBA World Championship Series in 5 games.
This wasn't supposed to happen. Shai wasn't supposed to be that guy. In fact, the mere fact that he's even a superstar today is one of the most unlikely stories in the league. Because before the rise, before the MVP title, before this iconic playoff run, his story all started in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Chapter 2. Young SGA. Shai was born in Toronto and raised in Hamilton, Ontario. From the get-go, he was blessed with the right DNA. His mom was an Olympian track star for Antigua and Barbuda in '92, while his dad was a Toronto City basketball champion. But even that didn't guarantee him a straight path to stardom. In 9th grade, Shai didn't even make his school's junior team. Instead, he played on the midget squad, which is kind of the lowest level of the team. But instead of being another kid on the roster, he led his team to a city championship, winning the MVP while doing so. But that wasn't enough. Because, according to him, if he wanted to be great, he had to chase better competition. He knew if he wanted to get better, he needed to compete among the best. This led to his family deciding that they would move from Canada to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Then, he attended Hamilton Heights Christian Academy. In his senior year, he averaged 18.4 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 4 assists, but still not making nearly enough waves. He was so ignored that his coaches had to make several calls to some of the best schools, saying that they had found someone special. Shai originally committed to Florida, but backed out because deep down, he knew he needed the biggest stage possible. So, he went to Kentucky, which proved to be the best decision for him. But even there, he wasn't considered good enough to start. He often came off the bench behind Quade Green. But sometimes, greatness becomes too good to be ignored. To fight for his own spot, Shai made a big statement. Slowly but surely, Shai took his chances and would soon turn into Kentucky's most complete player. By December 2017, Shai was running the show. He dropped a career-high 24 points on Louisville, 21 in Georgia, 18 on LSU, and by March, he was running the show in the NCAA tournament. He averaged 12.9 points per game, 3.8 rebounds, and 4.6 assists on a team full of future pros. And although they didn't win the championships, it was clear that Shai was ready for the next big step. Chapter 3. The Trade That Made Him. On April 9, 2018, SGA declared for the NBA draft. But even then, they still didn't believe in his abilities. I mean, why would they? This is a draft class that had Luka, Ayton, Trae Young, and so many other future All-NBA stars. SGA was drafted 11th overall by the Charlotte Hornets. But before he could even put on a jersey, they traded him straight to the Clippers for Miles Bridges and a future second-rounder. But Shai didn't complain. He simply adjusted to his new environment like he did in Kentucky. By the end of his rookie season, he was starting in the playoffs and even averaging impressive numbers. For example, in Game 4 against the Warriors, SGA scored 25 points on a team filled with Steph, Klay, and KD. The signs were there that this small guard had a hunger in him, something the Mamba himself had. But even then, Clippers still didn't believe in his abilities. It is not hard to understand that the NBA culture is winning always. So when the Clippers had an opportunity to draft Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, they didn't even bat an eyelid at trading away SGA. Today, the trade of Paul George for SGA still stands as one of the worst decisions they ever made, because they never even won a conference finals and have to watch SGA shine on the biggest stage for his team. On December 22nd, 2019, Gilgeous-Alexander scored a then career-high 32 points with 5 assists, 3 rebounds, and 2 steals in a 118-112 win over the Los Angeles Clippers, his old club. You could say it was his fuck you moment, maybe a one-time performance, but no, it wasn't. On January 13, 2020, SGA recorded his first NBA triple-double with 20 points, 10 assists, and a career-high 20 rebounds in a 117-104 win over the Minnesota Timberwolves, becoming the second player after Russell Westbrook to record a 20-20-10 stat line in the last 30 years and the youngest to achieve it. By the end of year 2 in OKC, Shai took a huge leap from 12 points per game to averaging 23 points, shooting over 50% from the field. These numbers are hard to come by in the league. There's only a handful of players who can confidently boast of scoring so much. At the time, Shai was slowly becoming that guy. But the league still wasn't paying attention, and maybe they were right, because all of a sudden, Shai began getting injured and less efficient. But that slump wouldn't last long, because right when most people started writing him off, thinking Shai had peaked, he leveled up. First, he dropped a game winner on his former team. He recorded another triple-double the very next game, and by the end of that season, he was OKC's future. But this was just the beginning, because in the years that followed, SGA knocked on the door of superstardom. For years, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had been flying just below the radar. Sure, real fans knew he was somewhat good, but in the 2022-23 season, everyone had to acknowledge it. It started with a bang. He was named Western Conference Player of the Week in October. By November, he was already dropping game winners, hitting 40 bombs, and putting the league on notice. And then, he just kept going. He was putting up numbers that shouldn't even be possible in 2K, much less real life. But this wasn't just hot shooting. Shai was stuffing the stat sheet every night. Steals, blocks, dimes, and by the end of the season, he'd averaged 31.4 points per game, joining KD and Westbrook as the only players in Thunder history to average 30-plus for a season. However, Shai took it even further, becoming just the second guard in NBA history, behind Michael Jordan, to average 30 points, 4-plus rebounds, 4-plus assists, a steal, and a block while shooting 50% from the field. He literally became a demon that season. And if that wasn't all, he took it even further the very next season, averaging 30.1 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 6.2 assists, while shooting 53% from the field and 85% from the free throw line. For context, that season, only Jokic had a better stat line, which placed SGA second in the MVP voting. And that brings us to now. As of right now, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is coming off leading his team to a 68-win season, an MVP title, and a scoring title. To top it all, he's in the middle of one of the most dominant playoff runs OKC has seen since the Kevin Durant era. He's averaging 30.3 points per game, 5.4 rebounds, 6.3 assists, and leading the youngest team in the postseason with no All-Stars beside him. And he's still leading every run, every closeout, every moment. And now we're waiting on the two biggest words in basketball. Game 7.
Congratulations, you're the 2025 NBA champions.
I guess the final question now is, can he possibly win it all? Because if he does, he'll have done something that a prime Durant, Westbrook, and Harden couldn't. He'll no longer be that superstar everyone's struggling to believe in. What do you think? Will Shai finally be able to pull it off? Let us know in the comments below.